Hey folks, this is Dr. K, continuing the video series on how to create the hamburger menu in my bookstore. And we just finished adding a drop shadow to our hover drop down. This is still a hover drop down at this point. All right. And now we're going to do something major. We're going to change it from a hover drop down into a click drop down. So it'll be a more or less true hamburger menu at this point, although there's still a lot of things we want to do to it. When we click on the hamburger, instead of just hovering over it, we're going to have the menu panel pop up, and it is going to stay there until we click on the hamburger icon again. Okay, so that's the goal of this particular video. And to do that, we more or less need JavaScript. I say more or less because there are hacks where you can do this in pure CSS, but the proper way to do this is to use a Boolean variable in JavaScript. So that's what we're going to do. And since we are using Vue, the Vue framework, we're going to go ahead and go down to our JavaScript section, okay, and basically there's nothing in there at this point. There's just, we're just exporting the component here. And since this is a component and not just a Vue instance, since this is a Vue component, we are going to the data property here is going to be a function rather than just a list of data. Okay, so the way we do that is we write a function and it returns our data. Okay, so we're going to create a Boolean variable called main menu open. Okay, and by default we're going to set that to false. All right, so now we have a Boolean variable called main menu open, and it's set to false by default. And what's going to happen is this is going to be true when that menu is open. Okay, we want it to be true when the menu is open, false when the menu is closed. All right, and to manipulate this Boolean variable, we are going to add a very simple method. Okay, and this is going to be another we're going to use the methods property. Okay, and the methods property is in fact just a list of methods that we can use, and we're going to create a method called toggle main menu. All right, and it's going to have a very simple implementation. The implementation is going to be, well, let me write it this way first. Main menu open equals not main menu open. Now, you're going to run into a problem. Oh, okay. So I was going to say you're going to run into a problem if you do it this way, if you just say main menu open equals not main menu open. But when I saved it, it ran the linter and it put this in front of it, which is the appropriate thing to do. So I was going to say, make sure you remember to put this in front of it. But it looks like ESLint already did that, which is really cool. So you need to put this in front of it to make sure you are referring to the data and not, something internal to this method. All right, so that's fantastic. I learned something new today. All right, so now we have the data, a Boolean variable, and we have a way to manipulate that Boolean variable. And now we're going to have to figure out when to, how and when to use it, okay? So the first thing, if you remember the structure of our menu, we have a menu container, we have a menu button, and then we have a menu panel, okay, which has all our items in it. So on the menu button, we want to listen for a click on this menu button. And when that click happens, we want to call that function. All right. And the way you do that in Vue is you use the event handler directive v-on. Okay. So I can just say v-on click. Okay. Equals, and then all I need to do is write the name of the method here. It doesn't take any parameters, so I'm just going to write toggle main menu like that, and that's pretty much it. So this v-on directive is so common. Okay, this is for event handling. It's so common that there is a shortcut for it. So we just use the @ symbol there. Okay, and I'm going to save that. And yeah, that should toggle the that Boolean variable now. And let's see. I think what I'll do right now, I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do this. But I think right now, so I'm toggling the variable, but I'm really not using that variable. Okay. If I go into the Vue developer tools, okay, the way I do that is I hit Option Command I on Mac, and I think it's Option Control I on Windows. I'm not 100% sure. I go to, you see I've got my tabs over here. If you hit that little thing, I've got the Vue tab there, and I can look in to the app, into the app header, and in fact the header drop down menu there, and I can see that main menu open is indeed false. Okay, so you might think that if I just click on that hamburger icon, it's going to toggle that to true, and of course in the CSS I have the hover drop down working, but I'm clicking on it now, and you can see that nothing's happening. That is actually what I would call a limitation of the Vue developer tools. This really is not updated unless there is something that reacts, something that basically uses that variable. Right now, there's nothing that uses main menu open. Okay, so we're going to create something that uses it, because I mean we're going to fix it so that this that the panel appears when main menu open is true. All right, so let's go ahead and do that right now. But I just wanted to open these Vue developer tools and show you that be careful. There is a limitation if you're not actually using a piece of data here, and you're not understanding why it's not changing. That's might not be your fault. Okay, it might be just the limitation of the Vue developer tools. Okay, so let's go ahead and use that, and I'm going to use that by creating a class binding. So to create a class binding, I'm just going to create a class, a new class first, and I'm going to go down here, and if you recall, the hover drop down works because by default it's a display none, and then when I am hovering over the menu container, the menu panel gets a display of block and therefore pops up. All right. I don't want this hover thing to work anymore because I'm doing this with a click. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new class here, and I'm going to call this class main menu open. Okay. So I'm going to save that. And what I want to do in my HTML, so that hovering is gone. Okay, so you can see now I'm hovering over this it's gone. I'm clicking it, and the View Developer Tools is not updating the value of that variable. What I'm going to do in my panel here is I'm going to create that class binding by saying :class equals, okay, and my quotes, and then I get an open bracket, close bracket, and in here I'm going to say the class is going to be main menu open, and because I'm using the dashes, because I'm using what this is called snake case, I have to put these in quotes. If I was using camel case, I wouldn't have to, but I would have to, put the name in camel case here. So I like to use snake case, so I'm just going to put that in quotes. And what I want to say here is use the class main menu open when the variable, okay, when the data variable main menu open is true. So main menu open is a Boolean, so if that Boolean is true, let me just save that. If this value is true, then this class is going to be used. All right. And just for clarity's sake, I could do this down here because I know this main menu open's only going to apply to main menu panel. So it's not going to make a difference, but for clarity's sake, I could do, main menu panel dot main menu open. So that just means when both classes are present rather than when just the one main menu panel is present. Then I want to display it as a block. Okay? And notice that this should take care of everything.